Hey everyone, Monique Renee here, and Bailey. I'm a photographer at Silver Paw Studio, and generally on this channel I empower you to tell all of your tales with tales. But on this limited series, Storytime, I'm going to tell you some of my tales having to do with photography and pets and just kind of what led me to this point in my life. Today we're going to talk about stock photography, and we're going to start all the way back in 2007. I had one of my first digital cameras, probably was even a 12 megapixel, and I wanted to be able to make a few extra dollars. And at the time, there was something called micro stock photo agencies starting up. Now, historically, stock photography had been for people with like big medium format cameras, completely full-time doing stock, that kind of thing. And so, do you want to go? Okay, bye. But then people started realizing that you need images for your website and different smaller needs for these stock photos. So one company was iStock, and I don't even remember how I found out about it, but I thought, hey, I'm gonna start contributing to this and see if I can make a few extra dollars. My goal in 2007 was to make enough money with stock photography on the side that it would pay my car payment. And so I was raising all my kids and working at the vet office at the same time. And so I would give myself these challenges and these themes to shoot some stock photos. Now, a lot of people at that time were just taking snapshots of just everything, and they weren't really thinking it through. And there's a process. So when you submit photos to stock, they have to be approved. And so they would have a long list of things, like it had to be technically perfect, it had to be in focus, had to be no grain. You had to have all the description and keywords and tags, all of that. And so it took some effort to supply to the microstock companies, but I decided to try. And so slowly, I built up a portfolio of images at iStock. And I tried some other microstock agencies, but it just took way too much time because you had to do that entire process for all of them. And finally, iStock just said, hey, if you're an exclusive contributor here, we'll pay you a higher royalty. And I said, okay, done. I was making most of my money on iStock anyway. And so I deleted everything off of any other microstock or stock agency site. And I just stuck with iStock, which incidentally, a few years ago was bought out by Getty. So I'm sure you've all heard of Getty Images, and part of my iStock portfolio is also on Getty. But one of the fun things that I found about submitting stock photos was making these projects. So at the time I was the office manager at a veterinary practice, a small one, and I just would ask the owner, hey, could I come in on the weekends and do some stock photography in here? He's like, sure. And so my daughter Amber, I bought her a whole set of scrubs, and we brought her into the hospital on a Sunday and had her in all different areas, at the front desk with a clipboard, in the back, surgery gear on her for some photos, and had her standing just outside the surgery suite. Just took a huge series of images of her in her scrubs. And so that was a whole fun shoot. When we went on vacation, so when I went to Hawaii, I took pictures there. When I went to New York City with Amber, did pictures there. Whenever my kids would graduate from high school and I did their senior photos, I would submit those. All of my dogs, my parents' dogs, their Papillons they've had over the years. We did one that was bath time. We have this blue metal tub with foamy bubbles out in their yard and giving the dogs some baths. We did toothbrushing, like toothpaste. I set up a tiny little studio in her living room or her dining room. We did a variety of images there. And my dog, Libby, I did a bunch of different photos with her. Oh my gosh. One that I really loved was her in little Christmas boxes and wearing like a tiny, tiny Santa hat. She was small. Or my golden retriever, Gypsy. And I put her next to some books. I put some glasses on her once. I put her out next to a road once with like a bag, like she was gonna run away. I did all these images. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. But two sets of images that they were big productions, but I thought they were kind of interesting. One of them, again, was with Amber and two of her best friends, and we got together for an entire day. And my sister was the help on that day, like she was my assistant. And we were able to use this vintage, like Victorian home that was in downtown Vancouver, Washington. One of the girls knew the owner, and it was a winery at the time, and they weren't open that day. And they said, oh, sure, use whatever you want. Ooh. And then these three girls, they put together Pinterest boards of 1940s style clothes, pearls and pencil skirts and white blouses. And so they got together all these clothes that they found at thrift shops. And then they went down to the local beauty school and had their hair done up in different victory curls and different styles that would be from the 40s. And then we went down and we spent all day at this house in downtown Vancouver. And back in the day, I did record video behind the scenes of that. I don't think that's live anymore, but if it is, I'll have some of that scrolling here. And one of the other shoots that we did that again involved Amber was iStock used to do meetups with all the contributors in different places around the world, and they'd call them lipses, L-I-P-S-E. And so they would make the first part of that be like Barcelona lips, you know, so it would be this gathering of people in Barcelona. Well, the one I happened to go to, they had one about 3.5 hours from my home up in northern Washington. And it was at a farm, and the whole concept was farm to table, and, you know, free range chickens and horses, and they had this outdoor table they were going to seat at. So they said, come here, and we're going to call it Chicken Lips. And so we went to Chicken Lips for 3 days in August, and Amber said she would be a model. Here's the thing though. At that point, we didn't get that much hot weather in Washington, but for some reason, that was the only weekend that it was 100 degrees every day, and we were camping. So it was just me and Amber, and I brought the tent, I believe. We were just in a tent. I didn't even have my trailer. And Amber and I were staying in a tent with like porta potties, and she was a model, so she had to like get dressed and change clothes and all of this throughout the day. And all these poor models melting outside because the whole thing was outside. There was some pieces in greenhouses. It was especially hot in greenhouses. And then there was a bunch of us photographers. And so sometimes I'd see Amber, and other times she'd be off and about being photographed by somebody else. And I have to show you one of the images from that has just been hysterical for probably a decade. We've had this image for a decade now. I didn't take this picture, but this came from Chicken Lips in Washington, an iStock Getty event at the time, and it's here. How to raise goats, everything you need to know. And this is Amber holding a goat on the cover of the book. And we would see this book, I think they've changed the cover since, but for at least a decade. We would go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Barnes & Noble. This book was everywhere, everywhere. She got teased about it at work. Like, she has a fairly serious job, and so sometimes they'd be like, is this you? She's like, oh man, you found me out, you know? So she's done just a ton of modeling for me, and we just love to show everyone. She has a copy, everybody I know has a copy of this book, and none of us have goats. So it's great fun to see your images in use, and I actually have a whole list of places I have seen images in use. I was watching TV one day, and one of my images came up on an ad for a realtor. Let's see. I was at a training at the vet hospital I worked at here in Colorado, and in my training for that hospital, all of a sudden a picture of Amber that I took at the vet office popped up on the screen, and I had to pause the training. I was like, hey everyone, guess what? That's my daughter. And they said, no way. Isn't that awesome? One day I was reading the AHA, American Animal Hospital Association magazine when I worked at the vet hospital. We would get that, and I opened it up to, it was almost February, so they were having Dental Health Month, and there's a picture of my mom's dog with toothpaste as the head image for this. Isn't that cool? Another time I had somebody email me saying, hey, our nautical society is using your image on the cover of our magazine. I'd love to send you a copy of the magazine. And it was a picture I'd taken of the Peter Iredale shipwreck that's there in Oregon. And so I'd taken this picture of the shipwreck and they used it on the cover of their magazine. Another time, Gypsy and Libby, my golden retriever and my miniature poodle, they were on the cover of a magazine talking about how pet-friendly this Oregon coast town was. So it was really so fun to see these images out in the wild. And there is this cool feature on Google. If you type in Google image search, it'll take you to a different Google page and you can slide in images and find out where they're used. And so I have done that on numerous occasions. I think, geez, this image is sold a lot, but I never find out where they're used. And so I'll do a Google image search and I'll see, oh my goodness, like that was used on this hospital and this chiropractor. The other day, I saw it as a YouTube thumbnail for a pet, like dog TV, I think. Isn't that cool? I was like, hey, hold on, that's one of my images. So people buy these and use them all over the place. And so, you know, that's one of my tales of how, you know, I got started in kind of like my whole career as a professional photographer. Pretty much started with microstock back in 2007. And once that really started to take off, that was kind of in the heyday of microstock. And so I was able to make my car payment. I made about $450 a month at that time on my stock imagery. The whole key to stock is shoot, upload, repeat, shoot, upload, repeat. And so I actually haven't uploaded anything to a stock site in maybe 6 years, and I still get about $100 a month. Maybe a little bit less, depends. So nowadays I am focusing more on uploading stock video, and I'm actually working on a produced regular video for this channel about that'll come out very soon. So stock video is kind of my new thing, and the whole thing behind it is you have to make yourself a specific project for stock. So whatever it is, like the vet office or dental health month or giving your dog a bath. For Bailey, I had her at a desk typing at a computer, you know. I've just come up with all kinds of themes, stock ready themes. And so if that's something you're thinking about getting into, I know an excellent place to start would be Images with Heart. So if you're a HeartSpeak member, definitely join that. It's super cheap and it helps support the few people that run that whole organization. And they have a segment that's Images with Heart, and I need to upload to it, but they pay a high royalty there. So it'd be really worth it. They need to up their portfolio. So if you want to start somewhere, I would definitely suggest there, or with stock video, which I'll talk about on a future regular episode here at Silver Paw Studio. Okay. So that was story time for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a limited series I'm just doing through the end of 2020 and maybe a tiny bit into 2021 because I keep coming up with more tales for my, 15 or so years, I guess, something like that, in this industry. So hope you enjoyed it. Bailey is enjoying chewing the ears off of her toys instead of up here with me. So she's having a fun time just off camera. And I'll see you next week. And as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATS's. Hi. Say bye, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.